Shivani, it may shock people that you decided to come back to the US, and I know you've kind of talked about why before, but could you
Yeah,
briefly share on here as well?
of course. So when I moved to India full time, there was truly a part of me that thought I might love it and want to live here the rest of my life. Like I went in very 50-50, unsure of whether I saw myself in the US long term or India long term. And I had come home 6 months after moving to India for Thanksgiving that year. And we kind of all go around and we had this question that was asked, what's been your favorite memory of this year? And my turn came, and my answer was this moment right here, where all 10, 14 of us are all in the exact same room together. Like, this is in my best memory of the year. And whatever, we went on. And then I kept thinking about it, and I was like, all of these really, really cool things have happened. Like, I'm in a magazine, billboard, interview, these highs. But my answer was still like, my family being in one room was my favorite memory of the year. And I kind of just kept thinking about it is like, if I know what my favorite moments in my life are and like what truly brings me the most happiness, why am I only having two of those days in a year? Like, why am I not maximizing the number of those kinds of days in my life? And I sat back on a plane back to India. And there was a woman sitting next to me, and she was kind of telling me her whole life story. And she was telling me about like her kids and her entire conversation. Just even with her, kind of just reassured me. And I kind of took it as a sign like, wait, like I think I'm missing something. And I think so often we go through life thinking that you leave home and you do the thing for 20 years, and your parents get old, and then at 60 then they move back in, and like that's when you start to think about parents and family. And I was like, well, if I know that at 23, why am I waiting 40 years till I'm 60 to like then think about this? And I have one brother. I don't have like multiple siblings. For me, it's like I want my future kids to grow up with my brother's future kids. And if I'm living in India, it's only going to happen like once a year. So I think, again, it was kind of a pros and cons. I think family was then a big driver. I think, secondly, from a career perspective, I loved what I was doing. Could I do what I was doing for another 5 years? 100%. But there were a lot of cons in the industry also that made me realize this might not be as sustainable of a lifestyle as I think I'd like it to be. Maybe at 23, I can deal with a lot of this BS and a lot of this unpredictability and lack of stability. But when I'm like 30, will I really be wanting to deal with this? I don't know. So I think that was a big factor. And then thirdly, my now fiance Sham, he's always like, "Why am I the third factor down there?" I was like, "Listen, you are one of the three factors." I think those were the three things that kind of made me realize that I do want to find a way to pivot and take everything that I've learned and done in India and bring it back to the US.
It's easy to talk about that decision in hindsight, but at the time, was it difficult to make?
Yeah, I think there's again a lot of noise, a lot of people, my friends within the industry that I'd made that were like, "You're just getting started. Like, this is like you're the tip of the iceberg. Like, you have no idea. It's only been 2 years." My parents were kind of just like, "You need to be selfish and do what's best for your career. Like, you shouldn't be thinking so much about family at this point." So they were also just like, "It's okay. Of course, there were some people that totally got it and were like, "Yeah, this makes sense. We told you from the beginning, like India is not the place to be. You need to be in the US." So I mean, everyone had like their different opinions, but I moved back in January of 2020, and March 2020 is when everything kind of went like haywire for everyone around the world. So in that sense, I feel really glad that I made the decision on my own to move back to the US before I had to do it like because of COVID, right? Like for me, that decision wasn't impacted like, oh, I physically cannot be here.
So it seems like family has been just a really strong value for you. I'm curious if you know where that comes from.
Where that comes from, I think it's like just the way we've been raised. Anything could be hitting the wall. You could be as busy as you want, but you need to make time for that family dinner. Like you need to be present. And I think my parents, I mean, hopefully they're not going to listen to this conversation, but they're genuinely they're just like fantastic human beings, and I think they did a great job of being able to like hear our opinions, hear criticism, like have open conversations. And for me, they've always been really good friends also. Like they've been, of course, they've also been very strict and unreasonable and like wanting to pull my hair out of me, fight all the time too. But I think I also realize like it is so rare to have the relationships and connection that I do with them. So I'd be silly to like not be with them. I don't know.